Today, we will share the story about, I think if it was the first celebrity that actually purchased one of my works. And I do believe so. The actor Sienna Miller, she had this very well-known cosmetic surgeon who he would treat a big circle of celebrities, and through him, which I will make another video talking about this cosmetic surgeon. Through him, I sold a pretty large scale, I would say the size of the window back here. And it was called The Mask. Or it was called Masquerades. I can't remember, I have to look through my archives and to find that picture, because that was around 2010, definitely. That was around 2010. And I remember that I made that piece half in my studio and half in Soho. And I remember how one day I was caught in the middle of a thunderstorm right on Mercer Street. And I remember that I was dragging that piece through the water, trying to save the piece, and then bringing it back to my studio and hope for the best in terms of drying, the bottom of the piece that I remember that got soaking wet. So that's an anecdote. And so through this doctor, art collector, very prolific and very serious about his artworks that he would collect. They were pretty heavyweight, his art collection, to say the least. But once again, I will talk about him in my next video. So maybe right after this one. So Sienna Miller got the work, and I never had really any kind of contact with her. And it felt, at that time, it felt to me, at that particular time, not a big deal at all. As I was walking on fire, I'm walking on fire, but in a different, in a different way. But back then, I was definitely walking on fire, and so it felt great at the time, knowing that the work was very strong. It was a big, face, kind of, a mask, and had a lot of black and red and other colors around, dissecting the form of the face. I think that night I went to the Bowery Hotel and celebrated, and I had a great night. So, I can't really say much about her because I never met her personally. But I can share with you that it felt pretty good. Now times are in context of 10 years, 1 decade difference from 2010 to 2020. It's just very overwhelming and very interesting sociologically to feel how we have become this kind of human experiment, with the internet. And this is what we're doing right now. Everybody's podcasting, and it's so cool to review how the radio era started and everyone was actually podcasting. Theater on the radio, Orson Welles on the radio, everybody was on the radio. And this podcast thing, it feels much like we're going full circle. I saw the other day on YouTube also this brand new digital old school type recorder for writers, meaning it was made of aluminum and it had the thicker shape of a old school, typewriter, but it had all these different functions to give you, the ambience of you interacting with an actual typewriter from back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. So it's kind of cool. Sometimes when we revise the science fiction movies from the 50s, 60s, and they show us all these flying cars and or actually movies from the 80s or 90s. I could bring one top of my head with that I just watched I think last month, Brazil, with Robert De Niro and an amazing British actor. And even though I can't remember her actual name, but she was Mona at the TV show Who's the Boss with Tony Dancer. And Mona was in this amazing movie, Brazil. Um, yeah, so all this era of going, moving forward into the future and acquiring what he used to, the shape and forms of the past. But those are trends, as you and I know. Those are trends that they come and go. So I think that whenever our eyes see something absolutely like new, but at the same time recognizable, you feel this, nostalgia. And you want to maybe remember how, your mom or your father or your brother or yourself, used to use the actual typewriter. I don't know. Or maybe you bring it to the coffee shop and show everybody that you are a true writer. I mean, all those things, it's just, sociologically, it's just impossible to escape it, though, in so many levels, so it's fine. But, yeah, I really hope that Sienna Miller has framed my work and is right on top of her chimney in her apartment in London or somewhere. Because I watched a documentary of a cottage that she has somewhere outside London, and it was so cool. I mean, she had really pretty good artworks hanged by the walls, and she was giving a tour, and it was very very homey and very down to earth and beautiful, very, very beautiful. Yeah, actors, I grew up with actors, and I always felt in the most, sweet and strange way welcomed by actors. Musicians, there was always a push and pull thing that it would frustrate me a lot. Which is fine. I mean, it comes with the territory. It's just the way it is. But actors have this amazing power of living, obviously, having all these different faces that they can just change, and having them their own conflicts, inner conflicts, and then they kind of relate to you, or they can see through you much clearer and better. And I don't know. I mean, I always had an amazing experience with actors. Yeah, I love films, obviously. I love films. Anyways, I'm very happy, once again, that Sienna Miller got one of my works, and I wanted to thank the doctor, David Colbert, for everything he did for me and how he supported me in a very important part of my life and my art.